Rock Hudson was a prominent and prolific heartthrob of the golden age of Hollywood, and although he was popular with the ladies, he secretly was gay and obviously didn't care to reciprocate female attention. At the peak of his fame in the early to mid-60s, very few people in Hollywood were closer than Rock Hudson and Lee Garlington, who dated from 1962 to 65. 3 decades after Hudson's death, at the relatively young age of 59, Garlington and several other friends and peers, including Michael Gottlieb, an immunologist who provided medical care for Hudson, shared some of their most beloved and intimate memories of the late actor with People magazine in 2015. Join Facts First as we unravel the secrets that Garlington revealed about Rock Hudson's life, career, and love life. Rock Hudson's life story. Hudson was born Roy Harold Scherer, Jr. in the small town of Winnetka, Illinois. His mother, Catherine, was a telephone operator, while his father, Roy Harold Scherer, Sr., worked as an auto mechanic. His parents got divorced when he was 8, and although he had taken an interest in theater when he was a teen, he failed to land roles in school plays due to the fact he was unable to memorize his lines. After graduating from high school, Hudson first labored as a postal worker during the Second World War before he enlisted in the Navy, in which he served as an airplane mechanic. After the war was over, with the Allied forces claiming victory, Hudson worked briefly as a truck driver. Because of his height, good looks, and charm, he managed to find his way into movies. It was then he officially changed his name to Rock Hudson. He got his teeth fixed, took acting lessons, and learned various other skills that might come in handy in the industry, including singing, fencing, and horseback riding. Even though he managed to get noticed in Hollywood, he still hadn't quite been able to get the knack of remembering his lines. In his first film, 1948's Fighter Squadron, it reportedly took 38 takes to nail one of his lines. In time, however, he was able to overcome his handicap and went on to become one of the most prestigious and sought-after actors of his time. In 1956, he received an Oscar nod for his role in the film Giant. Just 2 years later, Look magazine named him their Star of the Year. Rock was also notable for being one of the first public figures to reveal he had AIDS, and his passionate search for a cure for the dreaded disease brought him international acclaim. After he passed away, his long-term lover, Mark Christian, managed to successfully sue Hudson's estate, again drawing attention to his sexuality. For the majority of his life, Rock had tried his best to keep the fact that he was gay a secret. If only he were still alive today, he would then be able to fully embrace who he was and who he loved. Rock's relationship with Lee Garlington. Garlington was a young extra trying to find his big break in Hollywood when he first met Rock in 1962. He told People magazine that Rock was the biggest film star in the world, and he had already heard the rumors he was gay, so he figured he ought to take a look at Hudson himself to see what all the hype was about. Lee stood outside of Rock's cottage on the Universal lot, acting as if he were reading a magazine, which he humorously admits was likely upside down. When Hudson walked out and strolled down the street, he simply looked back once, and that was it. That was their first encounter. No fireworks, no explosions, just a single glance. Garlington said he was scared to death when he later got the chance to meet Hudson more formally at his mansion in Beverly Hills. Hudson, who stood at 6'4", was an imposing presence, but he offered Lee a beer in a friendly manner. Unfortunately, Garlington was too nervous to say much. All he was able to get out was a quick, "Let's get together." Much to Lee's delight, however, Hudson agreed they should hang out. Garlington subsequently would regularly come over to Rock's house after work, spend the evening there, and leave in the morning. Garlington would sneak out early and tiptoe to his Chevy Nova before coasting down the street without turning on the motor so the neighbors wouldn't notice him leaving. At the time, both he and Hudson thought they were being exceptionally clever. The two would attend film premieres together, but to create a cover for their secret relationship, they would each bring along a female date. Garlington says no one in their right mind back then would have felt comfortable coming out. That would certainly result in the end of their career. So he and Hudson did whatever they could to pass as straight. Even so, some people knew what was up. Garlington told People magazine about a time he had met Paul Newman and his wife at a movie premiere. The second he looked at him, he grinned, and Lee knew in that moment Newman knew that he and Rock were together. Interestingly, Rock never requested of Lee that they keep their relationship secret. He wasn't paranoid about it or anything at first. They simply had a mutual, unspoken understanding that they should keep their relationship under wraps, and Lee did his best to respect his lover's wishes. That changed a bit, however, when one of Hudson's female fans broke into his home and proceeded to sleep in his bed when he and Garlington were away on a road trip. On Rock's dresser, he had photos of Lee shirtless, and while the fan didn't discover them, it still left him feeling a bit nervous about how vulnerable he had become. After that, he had gates installed at his home. Garlington and Hudson had a beautiful romance. They loved one another deeply and, by all accounts, brought out the best in each other. Even so, they ended up breaking up in 1965. Rock spoke briefly on the breakup years later, explaining how Lee had wanted a father-like figure and he was simply not strong enough to provide that for him. The two inevitably lost contact, and by the time Hudson revealed he'd been diagnosed with AIDS in 1985, they hadn't spoken in years. Garlington said he was shocked when the news broke of Hudson's illness. Back in those days, AIDS was essentially a death sentence. He tried to call Rock's caregivers, but they informed him he was very sick and probably wouldn't know who he was. Garlington later read in one of Hudson's biographies that Rock had called him his one true love. When he read those words, Lee recalls he broke down and cried with grief. According to the biography, Lee and Rock's mother were the only people the actor had ever loved. Rock Hudson banned Garlington from taking pictures with him. Garlington said he still keeps photos of Hudson in an old antique box at his home, but there's only one surviving one of the two together. Increasingly worried about the potential fallout of the world finding out about his sexuality, especially after that break-in, Hudson refused to allow anyone to photograph him and his lover together. Garlington says Hudson only allowed him to take pictures of him and not with him. In the years since his death, however, Lee has discovered forgotten photos from a vacation he went on with the actor in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, in 1963. The two had received a recommendation to go there by their mutual friend Elizabeth Taylor, whom Hudson starred with in Giant. Garlington recalls they would walk up and down the beach taking pictures of each other, in addition to riding around in an open-air Jeep. There they could be themselves. No one knew who they were, and there were no pesky paparazzi around. That one photo that remains of the two was captured at a bar in New Orleans. Garlington was once told by the actor's agent that he could never be pictured with his boyfriend because if anyone saw it, they might suspect he was gay. Garlington wishes Hudson had been born 30 or so years later. If he had been, he would have been able to relax a little more and live a happier life. He further says Hudson would be downright elated if he'd known how much had changed in the years since his passing. Rock Hudson's death brought much-needed awareness to AIDS. Rock only ever came out the year before his death in 1985. By revealing his sexuality, he was able to spread public awareness about the ongoing AIDS epidemic. Hudson was widely loved and respected. By admitting he was gay and had contracted AIDS, he effectively changed many people's attitudes about the disease. He had a huge impact that, according to Garlington, was more than he ever realized. Garlington is now married to his longtime partner, Paul Garlington, whom he's been with for 36 years. Lee is now 85, and it's unclear if he and his husband have ever had any kids. Hudson, however, may have fathered a woman named Judy Dent, whose mother Susan announced a few years ago that she was suing his estate for what she believes to be her rightful inheritance. According to some reports, DNA tests have confirmed she is indeed Hudson's daughter. Evidently, though, the courts have yet to award her with her claim. Rock Hudson's legacy. For his many contributions to the worlds of cinema and television, Hudson was given a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. After his death, his dear friend Elizabeth Taylor had a bronze plaque commissioned for Hudson on the West Hollywood Memorial Walk. In 2002, Hudson was honored with a Golden Palm Star on the Palm Springs Walk of Stars. Now it's time to hear from you. What are some of your fondest memories of Rock Hudson? Let us know in the comment section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to FactsVerse if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.